this brings us to this very, very important man. Charles Strite was an engineer who was unhappy with burnt toast. He was unhappy with reaching into the toaster. He felt that this was an appliance and it should be working for him. And what he needed to do was build a pop-up toaster. And he did build the first pop-up toaster. I don't have one of them here because they're kind of hard to get. His initial idea was that he would put a timer on it and that your toast would run for a certain amount of time and then it would pop up. Even though he had mechanical problems with it, he sold out his entire run. He spent quite a bit of time going to restaurants and repairing them. But that didn't actually destroy the market for them. What he found was that people appreciated the convenience of it, even though they weren't working very well at first. They could tell that this was a real and important innovation in toast. So there were some problems with the timers. Can anyone think what those might be? They might not be immediately obvious. What happens if you toast your first piece of bread, and then you put your second piece of bread in, and then you put a third piece of bread in, and you do a series of pieces of toast? Yeah, it'll get more and more burnt because your toaster is heating up from this lower temperature to a higher temperature. So the next innovation that we had, which I think is on the next slide, it's called a bimetallic strip. Now this is made of two different alloys, so as this heats up, it expands. So the next innovation in toasters was to have a bimetallic strip, which as the toaster heated up, would expand and hit a trip plate, thus triggering the pop-up mechanism. And this was really much better than the timer, because it was more sensitive to the internal environment of the toaster. There was one more innovation that we finally saw, but it took us until 1949 to get what was called color guard, like Sunbeam. There are several variations on it. Have y'all ever seen a toaster, like a high-end toaster, that is labeled on one of the slots? If you're only using one slice, put it in this slot. Yeah? Anyone know what that is? Hint. It has something to do with what we're talking about. The reason for that, I mean, you can put your single slice in the other slot. You'll still get toast. It'll be probably pretty good toast. But color guard and the related technologies measure the heat that is reflected off the slice of bread, and they use that to determine how much heat has been absorbed by the toast. And that, combined with the bimetallic strip, allows it to pop up so that you have a consistent piece of toast every single time. That was 1949, and then it was actually some decades before we saw, in the 1990s, the latest innovation in toasting technology, which was called IntelliToast by Sunbeam. Toast Logic was Toastmaster's version of it. People actually started putting electronic chips in toasters so you can monitor the heat, you can monitor how much had been absorbed by the toast, and you can monitor any variations in the voltage that was coming through, because those sorts of electrical variations could also cause some inconsistency in toast. And as a result, now you see toast that is very consistent. You should be able to get a nice golden brown piece of toast anytime and anywhere. One final thing that we've got, and this really is something that you will want to come up and see. Has anybody seen any of the printing toasters before? I've got one that does Hello Kitty. It's really kind of sad that they put out a Battlestar Galactica toaster that puts frack on your bread, or if you're in a better mood than that, you can put a classic Cylon face on your bread. But they wanted a whole bunch of money for it, and it didn't have a little red light that went back and forth. Because if it had a red light, I would bought that. As it is, this was a present. This is Darth Vader toaster. We will actually put Darth Vader in your bread, and here's how that's done. If you look inside here, you'll see that there are a couple of heavy metal plates between the heating element, which is just the kind of heating element that we've been seeing for decades in toasters, and between where the toast actually goes. So when the heat comes out, it's blocked in some positions and let through in others. You get enough through that you get golden brown toast, and you also get a much darker face of the Dark Lord. So you can have sort of a dark side of your toast. One thing that we've talked about before in these panels is what are we expecting to see in the future of toasters? There's obviously a lot of innovation that continues to go on in places like Duet. It's been some years now, but I think most people here are old enough to remember the fear about the Y2K bug back in 1999. And so I emailed every toaster manufacturer that I had a toaster by that had some kind of electronic chip in it. And I found an address on the website, and I said, Dear Sir, Madam, I'm concerned about my Toast Logic toaster. Is it going to continue to be able to make toast after the rollover? And I get a lot of email back from customer service people. My favorite one said, "Don't worry, Tracy, toast all you want." But lots of them were eager to assure me that they were thinking ahead with their toaster engineering, and that they were very careful to provide the best products and continue to do so. So, obviously they wouldn't tell me any of their trade secrets. But I talked to somebody who has a PhD in chemistry, whose dissertation was on nanotechnology. And I asked him, so what's nanotechnology going to bring to us in the world of toast? And I found out he didn't know a whole lot about toast. So one of the two things that we mentioned, the key things, once you've got bread that make it toast, you've got heat, so it's warm, and you've got caramelization of those sugars, and we have, as a result of the warmth, we have removal of water from it. So I said, so basically we need to have microscopic nano machines that do this without having to actually have a toaster. And he said, well, okay, so what we basically need is an exothermic reaction that releases heat in a controlled way, that alters those starches and turns them into their caramelized form, and that also consumes water, maybe gives it all this water vapor. I said, well, that's great, can we do that? And he said, well, the problem with that is really going to be that you want to make sure that this reaction has gone to completion by the time you bite into your toast, because otherwise it's going to start caramelizing the sugars in your body, and that would be suboptimal. So for now, we're going to probably stick with this. The other proposal that we had was a quantum toaster. And for people who have encountered some of the raw versions of quantum theory, this is suggested that there are an infinite number of universes that are then collapsed by observation. And once you observe something, only one possibility out of all of those possibilities that existed before will continue to exist. So what you need is a world in which the molecules have spontaneously recombined into toast while releasing heat and getting rid of that. And given the infinite number of universes, you only really need one. And then you destroy all the other universes and just keep that one. So basically you need to detect whether your bread has become toast. And something like ColorGuard, I think, would be really excellent for that. So we already have that technology. And then you need something to destroy all the other universes. And that seems to be the part that we're working on. The other thing that I've been asked about, Simon, is about Star Trek type replicator technology in toast. And why can't we just push a button and just get toast? Why can't we just cut out the middleman, not worry about the bread, not worry about this alteration process, even though it is cool in its own right, and just instantly get toast like that? The problem with that, currently, is the whole creation of matter problem. It looks like that's going to be solved because you can also convert matter into energy. You can convert energy into matter. So you need a source that produces enough energy. And I'm sure that as soon as we get enough dilithium crystals that we can use some of them for toast, that's the direction that we're going to be going. Let's go on to the next slide here. I wanted to mention also some very famous toasters that are not represented here because they want too much for them on eBay, and I'm not going to buy one. This is the Sunbeam T9, and I wanted to point it out because this is sort of the archetypical toaster. When people draw a cartoon toaster, it often looks a whole lot like this. The other archetypical cartoon toaster is to have a little curly Q Toastmaster logo on it. A cartoonist of mine, a cartoonist I'm very fond of, had like 8 or 9 of these in her big collector body for it. Every time she drew a toaster, it had one of these on it. And I sent her an email, and I asked her if this was some kind of product placement, and if she was corrupting her values by subtly including references to large industrial complexes. I didn't get a response about that. Research continues. One of the nice things about the Sunbeam, in addition to there's a sort of a light etched pattern on here. I was frustrated that I couldn't find a better picture of it because I have magnets of this toaster. It's just reproduced everywhere. But it's got this light etched pattern on it, and then down at the center there's that little glowing plastic insert that's sometimes called the jewel. Now on our next slide here, we have a toaster that's been nicknamed the Sweetheart Toaster because it is so cute. This is another swing type toaster, like these, but it's got these little pendant handles on the sides, and it's got the toast at sort of a jaunty angle here, which creates a little bit of this heart effect. These go for about $1,100, which is the major reason that I don't have one. And now we'd like to make some toast for y'all. While we do that, y'all have any questions?
Toast. That looks really heavy. It looks like cast metal rather